All right, everyone. Just a quick injury update before we get started with questions here. Host Ben Solak was limited this week in practice with poison ivy. He's an idiot who thought he could take all of it out of his new lawn with the appropriate protection and instead got it all across his face. Should be good to go for Monday. We are just monitoring his participation with plants for the rest of the week. Questions? I did go to Walgreens and get an eye patch. Opening script, Nate Hackett and the Denver Broncos. Let's take a quick State of the Union. The Broncos are 1-1. They lost their opening week game. It was against Seattle, Lumen Field, emotionally charged environment, Russell Wilson returning. I'll give you a pass on that one. But the get-right game was supposed to be week 2 at home against Houston. And that was a one-score game entering the fourth quarter that the Broncos were losing. They've scored 16 points in back-to-back games. They have yet to convert on a goal-to-go drive, and they've had 6 opportunities. This is a disjointed operation.
Let's ride.
And it starts at the top with head coach Nathaniel Hackett. It's excusable that the Broncos are taking a few weeks to get their sea legs under them. Denver is the only team in the league who brings a new head coach, new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, and new defensive coordinator to the 2022 season. Defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero is calling plays for the first time. Offensive coordinator Justin Outen doesn't call plays because head coach Nate Hackett does, but Outen's never been an offensive coordinator and Hackett's never been a head coach who calls plays. All of this newness has led to breakdowns in communication, breakdowns into game management. And even though Denver's advanced metrics make them look like a pretty solid team, they're leaving a ton of points on the table. Hackett's biggest issues have been in his in-game decision-making and play management. The Broncos regularly don't know what they're doing on third downs into fourth downs if they want to kick or punt or attempt a fourth down conversion. In a vacuum that might seem small, but they start to snowball, and you can see that effect in a game like the one they played against Houston. At the end of the first half, the Broncos had a 3rd and goal from the 1. It became a 4th and goal from the 1. And Hackett didn't know what he wanted to do. The Broncos dithered between sending out the field goal unit or going for it on 4th and goal from the 1 and ended up taking a delay of game penalty. That pushes you back 5 yards and now there's no chance you're going for it. You have to kick. In the second half, the Broncos wasted all 3 of their timeouts before the halfway point of the fourth quarter. They had to spend one in order to get a 4th and 2 play call in because they, again, didn't know what they wanted to do on 4th down. They had to spend a second one to get a punt returner on the field because when they went to field the punt from Houston, they didn't have a guy back there.
How do you not have a returner go out?
They spent their 3rd one after a 1st and 10 sack because they didn't get the play call in time on 2nd and 11. This was a one-score game against Houston, and you entered 7 minutes and 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter with no timeouts. Let's take a closer look at one of these examples. This is a 3rd and 1 from the Texans game, and it's actually a really cool short yardage play design. It's something that Hackett stole from ex-Saints coach Sean Payton, which is something that good head coaches do. They go find other cool plays, steal them, and install them. But it wasn't installed correctly. The Broncos weren't ready for it not to convert. They bungled the 4th down and ended up losing an opportunity to put points on the board. This is the Saints on a 3rd and 1 against the Bears in 2019. You have Taysom Hill in the backfield, Teddy Bridgewater under center, and the fullback offset. The important player to watch here is Robert Quinn. He's going to be the unblocked edge defender on an option play, and he's the whole core of how an option play works for the offense. As we run it, watch right tackle Ryan Ramczyk leave Robert Quinn unblocked as Teddy Bridgewater puts the ball into the belly of the fullback. The fullback will now have an option based off of the action of Robert Quinn, the unblocked defender. Should Robert Quinn dive at the ball, see the fullback get it, and go try to tackle the fullback has the option now to pitch the ball out to Taysom Hill. In the event that Robert Quinn stays with the pitch option and is worried about Taysom Hill getting the ball, the fullback can work just inside of him, go pick up a dirty 2 yards, and we have a 1st down. Watch this play out and watch Robert Quinn's behavior decide where the ball goes for the offense. He reads the fullback, he starts to get tight to him, you can pitch out to Taysom Hill. This ends up a 20-plus yard gain for the Saints. Now here's the Broncos 3rd and 1, and they want the exact same idea. Cam Fleming will leave Obo Okoronkwo unblocked and climb to the 2nd level. Obo will be our read player on the option. The ball goes into Andrew Beck's belly. In the event that Obo moves with Andrew Beck, then Beck can pitch it to the outside where Javonte Williams will take it. Nice explosive gain. And in the event that Obo goes with Javonte, then Beck can just turn upfield, pick up a couple of easy yards. We have a 1st down. When we run the play, we see the error in execution. The right tackle does not leave Obo unblocked. So now Beck has nowhere to go in the middle because the linebacker here is unimpeded. And if he tries to pitch this, it's going to be way spread out. It's going to be strung out all the way to the sideline because you have Obo with leverage to that side and you have the linebacker Blake Cashman chasing it down. So there's an error in execution. The play, which is the little gadget play that they try to steal from the Saints, wasn't taught correctly. That's the first problem. But the second problem doesn't happen here or even after this moment. The second problem happens right here, before the ball is snapped, because we've got a 3rd and 1 in enemy territory. We have a play dialed up that we think will pick the first down. But what happens if it doesn't? When Andrew Beck ends up tackled for a 1-yard loss, you get a 4th and 2 from the 36-yard line in your home stadium. The failed execution of the option is the second problem on the play. The first problem is that on 3rd and 1, before the ball is snapped, Nate Hackett doesn't know what he's going to do in the event that they don't pick up the first down. 4th and 2 from the 36. You should feel like you can go for it. It's the difficulty of that decision that leaves Hackett frozen. Hackett ends up rushing the field goal unit onto the field. McManus hurries, lines up, kicks a boomer. It's good. But the Broncos got flagged for delay of game. So they end up moving back 5 yards, 4th and 7 from the 41. This is now a 58-yard field goal, which is long, but again, with a kicker like McManus in Mile High Stadium, where long kicks are more achievable because of the elevation, it's still makeable. Only this time, Hackett doesn't kick the field goal. He sends the punt unit out. To pass up a 58-yard field goal in Mile High Stadium, when 7 days ago, you attempted a 64-yard field goal in Lumen Field, where the longest field goal ever made is 57 yards, indicates that there's no rhyme or reason to this decision-making yet. If you're feeling discombobulated, if this is hard for you to follow, that's the point. The Broncos' decision-making method feels aimless. We don't know if they're aggressive or if they're conservative or if they trust their defense or if they trust their offense. Hackett can get better at game management. He probably is going to get better at game management. It's only his second game as a head coach. He's allowed to struggle and then improve. However, unlike other first-year head coaches, Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins, Matt Eberflus with the Bears, the guys who hired Hackett are not in the building anymore. General manager George Paton is still there. But the Pat Bowlen Trust, which were the previous owners of the Denver Broncos, have since sold the team to the Walter Penner Group. The guys signing Hackett's checks right now are not the guys who hired him. They inherited him. That doesn't mean that Hackett's seat is hot. But when other first-year coaches get hired, start installing their system, start teaching their stuff, and run into snafus, they tend to have a longer leash because the vision in the organization is still the same. So there's 16 weeks left in Denver. There's no reason to push any alarm buttons. Russell Wilson's a good quarterback. The defense and the offense are both looking good by advanced metrics. They're probably going to win a lot of games and generally be fine. But Hackett has to find a way to justify his continued occupation of the role of head coach of the Denver Broncos, because through 2 weeks, he doesn't have one. Denver Broncos savant, Sherpa of all Ringer NFL writers, Lindsay Jones. Are you telling me you've never put your phone in the fridge?
I never have put my phone on the fridge. I've left my phone a lot of odd places, but I bet Nathaniel Hackett has left his phone in the fridge.
The question that I keep coming back to with Nathaniel Hackett, to what degree was Hackett hired as Aaron Rodgers' catnip?
There's nobody in the building that brings me more joy or is more fun to be around than Nathaniel Hackett.
Because the more we see the Rodger-less Hackett Broncos, the more it feels like that was the whole bit. From you being around the team for as long as you've been, is this head coaching just kind of like a lame duck situation now that Rodgers isn't here?
I think a lot of it was that he is so different than Vic Fangio. We see this every single year when teams are trying to fill their head coach vacancies. They go for the guy who is exactly opposite of the guy that they just fired. Nathaniel Hackett could not be more different, both from a football perspective and certainly from a personality perspective than Vic Fangio. I think there was probably a lot of that. And then there was very much an idea of this team has to do something different at quarterback. Maybe they'll help us get Aaron Rodgers. I'm not sure if it was quite as skewed as much, like they did it only because of Aaron Rodgers, but I think that was probably something in there. The problem, he's different personality-wise, but in terms of being a first-year head coach and is a little over his head, not all that different than Vic was.
Vic had the leash, though. He had what first-year head coaches tend to have, which is some time to get this figured out. The Broncos have changed ownership.
And he has what Vic Fangio and Vance Joseph never had in their time as the previous two head coaches here, and that's a quarterback. Last week, that Sunday game, that was the Walton Penner ownership group, their first time at Mile High Stadium. I believe Condoleezza Rice was also there, so some of their minority owners. It must have been so embarrassing for them to see their head coach, one of the two faces of this franchise now, along with Russell Wilson, getting mocked and seriously trolled by the fans in their first home game of the season.
Condoleezza Rice, future head coach, Denver Broncos, 2023. Owner, head coach, little Jerry Jones action.
I'll let that be your column for next week.
That's been the Play Sheet. Thanks so much for watching. It was an all Denver Broncos week. Sometimes we do more teams and we do different segments. So you should subscribe. You can watch the shows. This is where they'll be, and then you click it and then you see them. And that's how that goes.